Hi, I'm Steve Wood from ManyWho, and in this demo I'm going to show you a client onboarding application built on the ManyWho platform. So what you're looking at here is the workflow for the client onboarding. You'll see that there's a few steps in the flow, so each of these icons represents a screen in the flow or a form that needs to be completed. So you'll see there's an initial process here that's anybody can kind of complete inside of the finance organization. And then there's a couple of swim lanes, one with the Know Your Customer AML group, and one for the Ceph team if this new client involves Ceph. So the first screen is a validation form to check to see whether we have all the necessary details for the client. Then that goes off and searches the system to see if that client has already been onboarded before, if we've got somebody similar in the system. And let's just make sure that we don't kind of duplicate effort if we've already kind of done some work on this client already. If they are new, then we then go and complete a new client request form. But if not, we then just submit the client through to the Know Your Customer AML group. They then just check to make sure that everything is in order. Then if they approve this new client, it then sends a notification to the client from the Know Your Customer team just to say that the initial onboarding request has been approved. But then there's a rule, which is basically to say if we're dealing with a Ceph situation, then it has to go to the Ceph team to do an additional check. So basically, if we're onboarding a Ceph, then we've got to go down this path, and then it kind of continues on. So there's basically just the beginnings of a workflow here. So you can see there's the initial requester, there's the Know Your Customer team, and then there's the Ceph team, and working together with the client, also receiving a notification of the status of their onboarding request. Kind of a fairly simple workflow, but involving quite a number of people to get it done. So that's the workflow. Now let me run it so you can see how it would look as a user would see it. So I'm going to log into the flow as Etienne, and Etienne is making that initial request. And in this case, I'm actually logging in using Salesforce. So in this case, we're tied to Salesforce for the underlying identity and data. So you can see here we're sitting at this initial form validation. So if you remember in the flow diagram, we're basically sitting at this step here. So now I'm going to complete the new client form and we can kind of continue through the process. So we've completed the initial form, and then as part of the validation, we're going to search to see if we have any clients with those details. Now on this screen, this is just simply test data, but we could imagine that there'd be some related records here to say, okay, yes, we've found the matching account. So let's just say for the sake of argument that we have found a match in these search results because we have dealt with this client before, and we'll submit that through now to get approved by the Know Your Customer team. So I'm going to submit that now. So at this stage, as the submitting user, I do not have permissions to complete the next phases of this workflow. So the experience for me is one that I can just simply wait. And I can always come back to this at a later time. This net workflow is now running, and it's something that's going to make its way through the organization. So what I'm going to do now is log in as another user, and this user is part of the Know Your Customer team. Now for this user, they can see the submission. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reorient the screen so we've got them side by side. You can see what it's like for each user. So what we have here now is we have Paul, who is part of the Know Your Customer team, on the right, and we have Etienne, who's waiting for this request to be processed, on the left. Now, as I said before, we don't have to sit here and watch it. We can always come back, and we have the concept of an inbox and all the things you'd expect in order to pick up the process as it makes its way through the company. But we might say here that while we're looking at this new client, and maybe I'm just sort of reviewing their details here as Paul, that I might be interested to ask Etienne a question. And what's great about the ManyWho platform is that we can interact in real time with each other around this process. So you can see that the message from Paul is now appended to this process. So we have all of our communication in one place. And really what we're doing here is streamlining interactions between teams. Because this feed is attached to the process as it makes its way around the organization, questions that have been answered are quickly identified here in the feed. So now I know that we don't need to apply Ceph, as I can just fill in the rest of the information and submit it through. Once I've completed that work, I'll approve it. Now, just as a quick reminder of where we are in the process, is we were just here on this screen, and the reason why Paul was able to see the screen is he is a member of the Know Your Customer team, whereas Etienne was not. But what will happen now is it'll send a notification out to the client to say, hey, you've passed the Know Your Customer onboarding piece of this process, and because we didn't tick the box for the CEF, it shouldn't go down this path either. But right now we're just waiting on this notification, and as part of the process, we've said that actually it would be great for the client to confirm that they have been notified. So back in my email now, as a client, I can see, oh, my request has been onboarded and it has been through an initial approval. I can also join the process. Maybe I can help kind of get it completed. But I'll just indicate now that I have in fact been notified. So that notification will have now triggered the workflow to complete. So if we look at the two screens, you'll see that they've now caught up and said the onboarding process is being completed. So everything is working in real time and working together to kind of indicate where the process is in the flow. So by clicking on that email that notified the workflow that it should proceed, and anybody who was working on the workflow at that time would have been notified and seen, yes, okay, the client onboarding has now been completed. So if we go back to the process just to confirm, you can see that the notification went. When I clicked on the notification button, that triggered the workflow to go down the notified path. It checked to see if this is an SCF submission. It was not, and went to the final screen. So that gives you a sense of the kind of process you can build on the ManyWho platform, involving a number of teams and people working together in real time to get something done as quickly and easily as possible. Thank you.